If you had a plant that you could feed it to your animals, your chickens, your goats, your cows, if that same plant has healing properties, if you had a cut and you made a poultice out of it and it helped stop bleeding and heal that wound, or potentially you had a broken bone or an ailment internally, that this plant could actually help to heal that. If that same plant could even be used as a fertilizer to fertilize your garden, wouldn't you want to grow it and have all these wonderful things? Well, that plant is comfrey. It's been used for a very long time. Let's do a series on how to grow it, how to propagate it, how to do everything with comfrey, how to make fertilizer out of it. Stay tuned. We're going to start it off today with cuttings and how to propagate. It's December 27th, Zone 6B here in Sevierville, Tennessee. It's winter, although it's very temperate and it's lovely compared to Chicago. But nonetheless, it is winter. So let's take a look at our comfrey. Comfrey, you can harvest the leaves 7-8 times a year and it'll grow right back. We missed the last harvest and you can see basically the leaves have died. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to take some root cuttings to show you how to propagate. First thing we're going to do is we're just going to remove all this dead leaf material. As you can see, we are mulched with wood chips here on the farm. And just remove that. It's no big deal. Throw that right in your compost pile and it's going to be a lovely amendment. So you can see though, even though it's died back, you can see all these fresh shoots right in here. If you take a closer look, you can see all these fresh shoots. So the plant is absolutely doing fine. It does have a tendency to harbor a lot of insects and worms. But then we're going to move these wood chips aside. You see all these pill bugs in here that we're working on decomposing this dead matter. So let me take a minute. I'm going to clean the area up and we'll come back. Ironically, it was a drought during the growing season of 2016 here in 6B. However, in the last week or so, we've got so much rain, including last night. I didn't pick the best day to be able to film this, so you'll see all this water here. This is just from the rain last night. Comfrey doesn't necessarily like sitting in water, but this water will dissipate pretty quick anyway. You can see all the small roots, and as I was digging down, you could see this nice root that formed and is reaching out horizontally. As mentioned, comfrey does have a taproot, so there are definitely roots going down underneath this clump here, but we can take this root off, no problem, and use that for our root cuttings. So I'm just going to come over here and go ahead and clip this off, and it'll be fine. Really, all we need is about this much for this one. We can do another one. So this is good for about 3 nice, healthy root cuttings, and we'll show you how to plant those next. Okay, now we've got an assortment of comfrey cuttings of different sizes. This is a real healthy one, as you can see here. Some thinner pieces. These are all going to grow into plants. You can see there are some of the root hairs still attached to the cutting. It doesn't really matter. Even just a solid piece of root is still going to grow into the comfrey. Now, comfrey does not like to be in pots for any extended period of time because it's got a taproot. So when I say extended period, a couple of months, a few months is not going to hurt anything, but you don't want to try to grow it there forever. But for you can directly plant the comfrey into the ground, but for example purposes, I'm going to show you in a pot. It'll just be easier since I have it up here up on a few pallets here as a workplace. Let me move these to the side. And we have a bag. We have probably about 50 to 60 cuttings here that we're going to propagate for a customer. Okay, so I'm just going to use these small pieces. As you see, this is just a small piece. And comfrey loves fertility. It's got those big leaves on it. So I'm going to just take a little bit of this potting soil. I'm going to get me a handful of horse manure. Gotta love that. That's aged horse manure. And you want to set the root piece sideways in the pot. You don't want to put it vertically, you want to put it sideways so it has different spots that it can protrude from. And you just go ahead and you set that in the pot, flat on the bottom like that, about 3 inches deep or so. You want to plant it if you're going to plant it in the ground as well. And then just cover it with soil. That's it. I mean, it's super easy to propagate comfrey. And then we'll water it in. And then it'll take a couple weeks. Right now it's winter season, so it'll take longer for it to germinate. We'll put it in our hoop house over here. And you can also start it inside. I've started many of them inside and then bring them out in the spring and go ahead and plant them then. So let's take a look at something that's been planted now for a couple of months. And here we have just a 3x3. And we can see it's lost all of its leaves. But if we get down, there's a root system in there, and there's the original piece of root cutting that was there. And you can see this has probably been planted for about 2 months. And I can ship this to somebody if I wanted to as a bare root plant, or we can just pot it back up, or I could put it in the ground. It's real easy. It's a real hardy plant. It doesn't really, it's not real concerned about how its growing conditions. This one looks like it's in a much better shape. These roots look a little bit dark, but the plant does look alive. And we see there's nice healthy white root system in here. And we can see it's going to start circling the pot. And actually I could break these pieces of root off if I wanted to. And I could plant those too. Let's see if we can get a little bit better look at what this plant looks like for you. And oh, I see this is, I started it in a toilet paper roll. So this plant is actually a little bit older. This plant is probably about 9 months old in this pot. And you can see it's got real nice root system. And the crown of the plant is right here. It's kind of hard to see, I'm sure, because it's dark on dark. We can see there's green here, so this plant is definitely fine and will leaf out nicely in the spring. Let's see if we can get a little bit more dirt off for you to get a better look. It's pretty solid in here. We can see a nice piece of root that's coming out here, right there. It's beautiful. You could actually break that off and you could plant that as well. So as far as propagating comfrey, you can see how easy it is. A Russian comfrey is sterile and can only be propagated by root cuttings, whereas common comfrey is not sterile and it will reproduce itself via seed, and then therefore can really become invasive. And also, as you're digging up comfrey, if you decided that you don't want it in that place anymore, it propagates via root cutting. So if you don't dig it all up, it's gonna grow back. Stay tuned, we're going to show you more tips on how to grow comfrey, how to make fertilizer will be coming up next using comfrey. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you soon.